there's a lot of this thing in the zeitgeist that says like, oh, you can overcome everything just with a different mindset. I don't think that's always true. But I think in many scenarios, if we would think like, especially if you're living, obviously if you're living in a country that is, free, like the US, Canada, Western society, even a lot of other countries, you can make a real difference just by trying to better your scenario, better your situation on your own, even if it's, romantically, your relationships, or your economic. I think there's, especially with the internet, there's just so much opportunity out there. And I'd love to hear maybe some of the stories that you have from people you've worked with where you've seen them continually jump in front of themselves to block their progress.
Yeah, we do it. We are self-sabotaging. I could tell you on a personal side, and I can tell you on a professional side some stories. My clients are all business owners and CEOs here in the DFW area, and I've watched them as they try and run a business and the challenges they face. And sometimes things are totally outside their control. Nobody planned COVID, right? Nobody had
Right.
that on their agenda, and yet they all had to survive it. They all had to figure out, what do I do with this? And I don't want people to die. But if I send them home, they're not making money. If I just keep paying them and I'm not making money, I'm going to go broke and there won't be a company to have for them. So there was this really weird time of, this is not my fault. And so we just kept
Yeah.
meeting and talking about, okay, we get it. So what are you going to do about it? And if they're telling you you're an essential company and you can stay open, then you have to figure out how to stay open. And if they tell you that you can't stay open, you have to figure out, well, how do I care for my employees and not lose good people or leave them hanging? It was a lot of hard things to decide. But at the end of the day, the people who were willing to own it and be creative and to be vulnerable and share to the group, look, I've got this whole group of people who are engineers standing next to a bunch of people who are shop workers. And the shop workers have to be there, but the engineers don't. And so the shop workers are mad because they have to go out and face the potential of getting COVID, where the engineers can go home and do their work remotely, and it's not fair. And how
Mm.
do we treat these people, and what do we do? And those kinds of situations that nobody could have ever planned for, they were a challenge, but we had to own it and we had to figure out a solution. The same thing goes
Right.
on the personal side, where you're trying to run your personal life, and all of a sudden your spouse says, I don't want to be married to you anymore. And now you've got to figure out what to do with that. And whether you were a jerk or not, whether you were probably the best spouse in the world, but now you're at this place where you're losing your marriage. And you could sit there and say, hey, I'm being a victim here, but what about it? I mean, it's not going to fix the fact they don't want to be married to you anymore. What are you going to do about it? And those are hard decisions where I don't have a solution for you, but you do. You know what you can
Right.
do. I'm an executive coach. I never tell my clients what to do. I ask them enough questions to figure out, well, what do you want to do? Well, how do I support you in doing that? And that's the same thing with all of our lives. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, there is a solution. It might suck. One of the chapters in our book is called Embrace the Suck. Because once you get to the place where you say, nobody cares, I got to own this, you look at the reality of where you're at. I mean, really, really look at it, like standing naked in front of a 360 mirror and going, oh, geez, that's what I would look like. And that really acknowledging reality allows you to go, okay, this is where I'm at. And this might suck. It sucked
Yeah.
to have to sell our house. We had to tell our neighbors, yeah, we didn't manage our finances well, and we're selling our house to get out of debt. And they're like, oh, really? I had to tell my clients, even though I'm a business owner, I made really bad choices and I'm doing this because I had problems. And that sucked. And it sucked to go through all that. But we had a plan, and we found a solution and we made it happen. And it was awesome. And I don't regret it at all. And I own my life. I own my future. I still have challenges and problems, but I flexed my muscles of accountability. And then I started bringing that to my marriage, where we went to counseling and talked healthily about the things that had built up over the years. I looked at my health. I was 265, drinking bourbon and eating chips every night, because what do you do during COVID except snack and watch
Sure.
TV? And I'd gotten unhealthy, and I looked at that and cleaned that up. And it just, bit by bit, that one thing had this ripple effect that empowered me to own everything in my life. And I'm better at it some in others areas than others, but I still own it all. No excuses. I'm working on it. I'm on the journey, and I'm continuing to get better.